All right, students, we're going to jump into things here. And continuing on with Frankenstein. I've got my headset, so it might sound a little bit better. I hope so. All right. I was introduced into the presence of the magistrate, an old benevolent man with calm and mild manners. He looked on me, however, with some degree of severity. Who appears as witnesses? Me, sir. I had been out fishing with my brother-in-law, Daniel Nugent, and I struck my foot against something on the sands and fell to the ground, and I had fallen on the body of a man who is to all appearances dead. Who appears okay? He hadn't drowned because his clothes were dry and he wasn't yet cold. He had apparently been strangled, for there was no sign of violence except the black mark of fingers on his neck. The magistrate observed me with a keen eye, and of course drew an unfavorable augury, which means opinion, from my manner. Okay. Daniel Nugent, sir. Just before my brother in law fell, I saw a boat with a single man in it, a short distance from the shore. It looked like the same boat in which this man just landed. All right, let me move something here. Okay. I remembered the murder of my brother, and felt myself extremely agitated. My limbs trembled, and a mist came over my eyes, which obliged me to lean on a chair for support. Okay. A woman deposed that she saw a boat with only one man in it push off from the part of the shore where the corpse was afterwards found. Several other men were examined concerning my landing, and they agreed that, with a strong wind, I had beaten about for many hours and had been obliged to return nearly to the same spot from which I had departed. They observed that it appeared that I had brought the body from another place, and it was likely that I might have put into the harbor, ignorant that it was the place where I had deposited the corpse. Take him into the room where the body lies. I want to observe the effect the sight of it produces in him. Have my murderous machinations deprived you also, my dearest Henry, of life? Two I have already destroyed, other victims await their destiny. But you, Clairville, my friend, my benefactor. Oh, knowing that I had been conversing for several persons in the island I had inhabited about in the time that the body had been found, I was perfectly tranquil to the consequences of the affair. All right, back over here. The human frame could no longer support the agonies that endured, and I was carried out of the room in strong convulsions. So his friend Henry Clairville has been murdered, strangled to death, okay? Just like his younger brother, Edward, okay? Where's it Henry? Forget. No, Edward. All right. A fever succeeded to this. I lay for 2 months on the point of death, and my ravings, as I afterwards heard, were frightful. I called myself the murderer of William, of Justine, and of Clairville. Fortunately, as I spoke my native language, Mr. Kerwin alone understood me, but my gestures and bitter cries were sufficient to aright the other witnesses. Why did I not die, more miserable than a man ever was before? Why did I not sink into the forgetfulness of rest? But I was doomed to live, and in 2 months found myself as awaking from a dream in a prison. Are you better now, sir? I believe I am. But if all be true, if indeed I did not dream, I am sorry that I am still alive to feel this misery and horror. For that matter, for that matter, if you mean about the gentleman you murdered, I believe that it were better for you if you were dead, for I fancy it will go hard for you. However, that's none of my business. I am sent to nurse you and get you well. I do my duty with a safe conscience. It were well if everybody did the same. So she's basically saying, hey, I'm going to get you back to life, whether I care about you or not. I soon learned that Mr. Kerwin had shown me extreme kindness. He had prepared the best room in the prison for me, and provided a physician and a nurse. One day, while I was gradually recovering and overcome by gloom, the misery, he entered. I know that the sympathy of a stranger can be of little relief to one borne down as you are by so strange a misfortune. But you will, I hope, soon quit this melancholy abode, for doubtless evidence can easily be brought to free you from the criminal charge. Immediately on your being taken ill, all the papers that were on your person were brought to me, and I examined them. I found a letter from your father and wrote to him in Geneva. This suspense is 1,000 times worse than the most horrible event. Tell me what new scene of death has been acted, and whose I am now to lament. Your family is perfectly well. And someone, a friend, is come to visit you. Father, are you safe? And Elizabeth and Ernest? All safe. What a place this is that you inhabit, my son. You travel to seek happiness, but a fatality seems to pursue you. And poor Clairville! I was obliged to travel nearly 100 miles to the country town where the court was held. Mr. Kerwin charged himself with every care of collecting the witnesses and arranging my defense. And the grand jury rejected the bill on its being proved that I was on the Orkney Islands at the hour the body of my fiend was found. And a fortnight after my removal, I was liberated from the prison. I was again allowed to breathe the fresh atmosphere and permitted to return to my native country. For me, the walls of a dungeon or a palace were alike hateful. The cup of life was poisoned forever. I often endeavored to put an end to the existence I loathed, yet one duty remained to me. It was necessary for me to return without delay to Geneva, there to watch over the lives of those I so fondly loved, and to lie in wait for the murderer. Whoa. Okay. All right. Here we go. The voyage came to an end. We landed. Yes. We landed and proceeded to Paris, and I received a letter from Elizabeth. Tell me, my dearest Victor, do you not love another? I confess to you, my friend, that when I saw you last autumn so unhappy, I could not help supposing that you might regret our connection, and believe yourself bound by honor to fulfill the wishes of your parents. And although they oppose themselves to your inclinations, I confess to you that my friend, that I love you, but it is your happiness that I desire as well as my own. Elizabeth. So she thinks he's unhappy because he's in love with somebody else and feels miserable because he has to marry her. This letter revived in me the threat of the fiend. I shall be with you on your wedding night. On that night, he had decided to consummate his crimes by my death. Sweet and beloved Elizabeth, I would die to make her happy. I fear, my beloved girl, little happiness remains for us on earth, yet all that I may one day enjoy is centered in you. Chase away your idle fears. To you alone do I consecrate my life and my endeavors for contentment. I have one dreadful secret, which when revealed to you will chill your frame with horror. I will confide this tale of misery to you the day after our marriage, for there must be perfect confidence between us. Until then, do not mention or allude to it. Victor. So he's basically saying, I've got this deep, dark secret, but I'm not going to tell you until after we get married. Okay? All right. Sounds like a good deal, right? All right. Not really. In about a week after the arrival of Elizabeth's letter, we returned to Geneva. The sweet girl welcomed me with warm affection, yet tears were in her eyes as she beheld my emaciated frame. Have you then some other attachment? None on earth. I love Elizabeth and look forward to our union. uh, with delight. Let the day therefore be fixed, and on it I will consecrate myself, in life or death, to the happiness of my cousin. It was agreed that the ceremony should take place in 10 days. Okay, so they agreed he's supposed to get married in 10 days. All right, almost done here. I took my every precaution to defend my person. I carried pistols and a dagger constantly with me, and by these means gained a greater degree of tranquillity. Elizabeth seemed happy. My tranquil demeanor contributed greatly to the calm her mind, and my father was in the meantime overjoyed. The happiness I had hoped for in my marriage wore a greater appearance of certainty. Yeah, I thought I thought I had prepared only for my own death, but I hastened that of a far dearer victim. Okay, so he's afraid. All right. I think I'm going to stop right there. Let me just take a double check here real fast. No, let's go one more page here. Through my father's exertions, a part of the inheritance of Elizabeth had been restored to her by the Australian government. A small possession, Villa Lavenza, on the shores of Como belonged to her, and it was agreed that we should spend our first days there. After the ceremony was performed, it was agreed that Elizabeth and I should commence our journey by water, sleeping that night in Evian and continued our voyage on the following day. You are sorrowful, my love. Ah, if you knew what I have suffered and what I may yet endure, you would endeavor to let me taste the quiet and freedom from despair that this one day at least permits me to enjoy. Be happy, my dear Victor. Something whispers to me not to depend too much on the prospect that is open before us, but I will not listen to such a sinister voice. What a divine day! How happy and serene all nature appears! Those were the last moments of my life, during which I enjoyed the feeling of happiness. As I touched the shore, I felt those cares and fears revive, which soon were to clasp me and cling to me forever.